There was just a lot in that fucking episode that I just... Ugh.
I mean, there was a lot in that ending.
Yes. We can talk about
that
for like an hour.
What
That
the fuck
ending
is
was amazing.
this next episode? I'm like, what the fuck is going to happen? He fucking publicly.
Okay, whoa, I'll leave it.
Are we live?
Yes.
Are we?
Yes, we are live.
Yeah, you have to tell us when we're live, okay? Otherwise,
We're loading. We're loading right now, okay?
So we're not live.
Okay, I was gonna say, because, like... yeah.
We're taking a big load right now.
And yet all this is still recording.
Never.
I have no clue who thought we were doing it.
Anytime I open my mouth, instant demonetization. All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Gaymer Pups. It's me and Cruz and these two other lovely people. We have Star Shadow to our right and Dad being the bottom, as always.
Rude.
Word.
Rude.
What was that about demonetization?
So, like, yeah, I super hope you guys watch this week's episode because from here on out, everything we say is going to be spoilers.
Yeah. So our usual as we do our spoiler warning starting now. It's gonna get intense. But before we get into the episode, let's talk about whose prophecies of the episode were gonna come true. And I think it's fair that I won that one.
What was your prophecy?
I think it was saying something like that John was going to lose it and spoil the Captain America name.
I thought you said that like 2 episodes ago.
Listen, it came true, okay?
Okay. Well,
And I was right.
You said it matters.
we found out a bit
And I was
more.
right.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, Okoye and Bucky obviously got it on, and they got that vibranium finger thing going on. I was just like, yeah,
Jesus Christ.
they were totally doing it in the woods at the beginning of that episode.
So, but like the whole like what's the broker's name? Power broker.
Power.
Yeah.
We don't know who they
Power
are,
broker.
but we know that they have now they're actually the power broker was backing them and is now collecting. So we found out more information there.
Okay, so this week's episode is called "The World Is Watching," and wow, is that appropriately titled for this episode?
And just so you guys know, if you did not know, this is Falcon and the Winter Soldier, episode 4.
Quattro.
There's 6 episodes. This is for episode 4.
Yeah. If you haven't been watching now, like, what the fuck have you been
For
doing?
Yeah, and why are you listening to this? Go the fuck and go watch it.
Hi, Roke.
All right, so it opens up in Wakanda. We get a little bit more of a bigger like understanding of Bucky's deprogramming, specifically highlighting the connection between him and Ao. And I thought that was really, really cool to see that Ao was a big factor in helping Bucky
Get where they were.
Yeah. Cruz?
Which, like, I mean, I knew they were there as a vibranium arm and everything, but like I like that they filled in that part because in episode 1 we see Bucky in counseling and stuff, and you don't exactly know his journey between Avengers Endgame to where he was there, what made him a hero all the way up to that point, why he's better and stuff and considered, and now we do. And he went through some pretty extensive like de-brainwashing. She worked hard through him. She's going like the scene you see. She's reciting through the words, all of his code words that are supposed to make him switch, and he's fighting it. And she's doing it, trying to keep him. He's trying to fight switching over so he doesn't go into Winter Soldier mode.
And that tension really is brought over into the present too, because you have that like, that's a really big bonding moment between those two. And then here we are in present day, and she's very much pissed at him because of the current situation. Star Shadow, what do you think?
I really want to see more from this because it's like always like a lot of us were curious about how they actually were able to deprogram Bucky, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lesson learned: don't mess with Wakanda.
Clearly went through a lot. Oh, I think everybody knew that.
Yeah. Like, they can do whatever the fuck they want when they want to, and they can even unbrainwash people.
Dad, what did you think about this whole this kind of counterpoint between the past and present?
I thought, like you said, I thought it was good. I think it was a nice touch to see how they deprogrammed Bucky, even if like Shuri may have done most of the heavy lifting, and she was just basically AO was just making sure that it took, so that way if he did go off the rails, that someone would be able to stop him, kind of a thing. Yeah, it's very good. And then you flash forward, she's like, I especially like the part where she was like, she reaches out her hand and he drops his balls, and she's like, "Thank you," and she walks off. She like struts off. I was like, well. That was another man giving up his balls.
So clearly,
she's clearly got some balls. So I mean, not like they're undeserved.
Clearly, Ayo's not happy that
Zemo.
Not Zemo. Well, that Zemo is free, but that Bucky helped Zemo escape, even though he tried to do that little like. He did this thing where he's like, well, technically he did it. I'm like, no, bitch, you helped. Okay.
We know everything.
So that was really entertaining. And she basically gives him like 8 hours before she starts going in there and start kicking ass, which eventually does happen later.
I will say, like, this entire episode is Zemo, like, Zemo is technically really the good guy through most of this
It's
shit.
so fucking interesting what they're doing with Zemo's character, because I've always thought Zemo was incredibly good in Civil War. So to see this kind of like different aspect of Zemo, it's so weird because it's hard not to disagree with him.
But like,
I want to.
We're going to get to the future scenes, but his decisions he made, especially like around the serum, that is a major part of this episode. There was moments where I was worried, given Zemo's background, that he was going to flip and switch and use stuff, but Zemo didn't do those things. Zemo committed all the way to his beliefs and ideals on the situation, all the way down to it. So I was quite shocked. I thought much more betrayal was going to happen.
So then Bucky comes in and informs the group that the Dora Milaje are in town and about to basically beat the shit out of Zemo. And Zemo has this moment here where he really shines, where he kind of goes into this like monologue where he believes that super soldiers lead to apparently supremacy and then Nazism and stuff. I forget what the exact quote was. But he basically was like, super soldiers equal supremacy equals Nazis, and then a whole world of Red Skulls, right? And obviously, Bucky was like, well, what about Steve? And then, Zemo says, like, Steve was one of a kind. And it's interesting because I don't know why I didn't know this, and I don't know why I didn't pick it up during Civil War, but apparently Bucky also is a super soldier. I never picked that up. So, egg on my face on that.
We see more and more through this episode, Steve really was one of a kind. Like, we see all these people do asshole stupid stuff, and Steve was one of a kind.
So I think that goes back to, the serum brings out characteristics in people, and I want to say that the Doctor talked about that in the original. That it doesn't make you, if you're brave, it'll make you braver, kind of a thing. You're an asshole, it'll just make you more of an asshole. And it obviously gives you super strength, but it's what you do with that power that makes all the difference. And Steve was very patriotic, very, not letting people get picked on, even though he was the little guy.
Yep.
And so, John is an asshole. And again, we talked about this before, is the kind of guy that the military probably would pick if they were given the choice. And obviously they did. So it'll be interesting once we get down the pipe with that. So,
As we unravel this, John fucked up everything at every point.
I'll just tee that one up.
Yeah.
So apparently the bombing that's happened involving Carly has made the situation very difficult for her group to move around, and especially it's kind of interrupting the investigation for Sam and Bucky. Now, I do have to say, I'm surprised how much of this show we haven't seen Sam in his suit. I would have thought we would have seen a lot more Bucky, a lot more Sam in, their traditional Avengers outfit, but they're kind of plainclothes civilians through most of the show. I mean, I guess you can't, Bucky's always technically suited up, but Sam isn't a super soldier. And actually that gets brought up later because Sam, I forgot who exactly asked Sam, but it was Zemo. Yeah, Zemo said "Hey, would you take the serum?" And Sam was like, "No."
Without hesitation said, and we can talk about that when we get there because it was important.
But this is actually that conversation. This is that scene.
No, that happened after Zemo got his ass kicked.
Yeah,
it happened afterwards, and he's laying on the couch with the cover on his face.
Smashed all the vials.
Yeah.
Which I kind of wonder if he picked one up and may have kept one.
He didn't. We know who did. Or are we at that scene now?
No,
are we going
to?
Okay.
No.
So then our heroes get to... Well, before we go there, what did you guys think about Zemo's monologue and his idea on supremacy? This is so just to highlight, as I was mentioning before, this is one of those things in where I really want to disagree with Zemo because Zemo is a villain. But it's really fucking hard to disagree with him in this scene. Star Shadow, why don't you lead us off?
It's interesting that he keeps bringing up the Red Skull because he was literally one of the first test subjects for the Super Soldier Serum.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of going full circle with that.
That is true. That's true. Moo?
So it's he's supposed to be the bad guy. Zemo's one of the bad guys, but you need to understand his perspective. And when they keep kind of trying to give that to it, his country, everything he has is literally ravaged by these people. And Zemo's ideals very much say that even though we do get exceptions here and there, it's these people that have destroyed, and these lives, these countries, these places weren't worth that one exception. None of it was worth that one exception. This doesn't belong in our hands. This isn't a power anybody should have. It's just wrong. And he believes that. And he's doing that's his ends. The issue that with Zemo we see throughout the episode is his means to those ends are what makes him more evil. We agree with his ends and his point that he wants to make sure that type of stuff doesn't happen. But it's the fact and the things that he does getting there. And the next part of after this, they get into it even more because Sam talks about someone who is different. What's her name? Carly.
Carly, yeah.
And he's arguing that Carly's different. That and that's why he wants to talk with her, and that she's different, that she didn't really mean this, that it was an ends to a mean, even though her ends were wrong. He knows her, and it's just different. It's not the same. And he believes she's an exception, not what Zemo believes she is. A monster. But they're all very much faced with the fact that no, people have died now. There's building. She isn't an exception. No matter what Sam likes to believe, he's being optimistic. And even Carly, when he talks to her later, her first thing she says, "You are optimistic." She's like, "You're either incredibly stupid or a genius because you're too optimistic."
Dad?
I I think Zemo's whole stick on that absolute power corrupts absolutely in most cases. You know, like you for every good guy, every Steve Rogers, you're gonna get a Red Skull.
Or like
And again, yeah, and again, you're just. I still think Carly's general purpose is not to control the world like the power broker is. So she's a different type of bad guy, right? She's a like a
Like a bioterrorist. Not like a
yeah,
an eco-terrorist.
yeah. Like she's doing it for good reasons, right? And the world governments, of course, don't want that to happen, so they label her as a terrorist. And it's she says later someone calls her a terrorist, and she says or freedom fighter, depending on your point of view.
Yeah.
Right. So there is that point of view. One of the other things I wanted to point out was in the scene was they talk about the and actually just maybe the scene quite after that, but they talk about the Patch Act that the Global Repatriation is going to be putting together the Patch Act, which is supposed to help restore borders and that kind of stuff like that. Patch is also another name for Wolverine, and when he was in Magipore at the Princess Bar in the previous episode, so I don't know if that was there's a lot of like Wolverine inside Wolverine jokes here in this series, which fucking would be awesome, but I don't think that's gonna happen after all this shit we went through WandaVision. I don't have any expectations they're gonna release new X-Men characters, huh?
Especially the 2 episodes left.
He could be the power broker for all we know.
It's true. So they get to Riga, or I guess they are already in Riga. But when they start trying to find out, like they start piecing together that they need to find Doña Madania, which is kind of like, I don't really know how to classify her, but she was pretty much that village mother type deal.
She was their saint that they kind of all
Mother Teresa
behind.
Right. And as they were kind of trying to get information from the local people there, they iced them out like completely. It was just it was weird. For a second there I thought they were going to get jumped, but it wasn't that they were going to get it wasn't that they were going to get jumped. It was that nobody wanted to help them because to them
they were the bad guys.
They were the bad guys, which is such an interesting viewpoint. I'm even that guy was like, "Hey, dude, I know exactly who you are. I know that you're an Avenger. You just can't help us. This is something that you can't help because you can't see it. You can't get your hands dirty," which was, again, like it's.
I will say I don't actually know yet if it's actually their responsibility to be involved in this.
It's really hard. This series is morally challenging, which is interesting. I like it. Like kind of where WandaVision was kind of like a haha and like a kind of fun type of show. This one's a real thinker.
Yep. Oh, there's so many moral, ethical questions and things they keep posing about different things. What would you do? Like, but these people's ideals and these people and like they're doing it. They're really trying to make you push yourself. And you're kind of already at the point where are we the good guys? Are we the bad guys? We know pretty with a strong Homelander energy that John was giving off through the whole fucking episode. Like, yeah. Where I don't feel like that's the good guy. And I will say when they went here, something that I point out that completely bothered me is like they're all in normal clothing and then he fucking shows up in his full armor, his Captain America get up, walking through the streets as Captain America. Not like incognito or anything, like fully parading, looking like he's ready to fight in a fucking civilian space. Like it's a war zone. And it's not. And that was his mentality as he approached everything there. And we see the difference that Sam and Bucky did not approach it with that mentality.
It's very interesting to see how Zemo, knowing now that the Dora Milaje are on his ass, that he uses. Man, I would say Zemo's biggest weapon is his mouth. And he definitely used it to basically gain an advantage of knowing exactly where Carly's going to be.
Yep.
What did you think about the scene with the children, Dad?
I thought it was perfect because I think Zemo gets, you know, I'm going to say you go after the weakest link, right? But if you're going to try to get information, the kids will probably know. And he ends up taking in the candy and, giving that away. And it was just perfect. And then, of course, he was like, don't tell these guys over here because they're bad guys. And so, like you said, he solidified his position so that way he even says in the very next scene, he's like, and give away my only leverage, right. By telling you where this is going to be. Because if I do that, I'm basically a dead man. You're just going to hand me over to the Dora Milaje, and it's going to be over with.
Yeah, I agree with him there.
Yeah,
you're
smart, very smart. Yeah, very smart, very very smart.
But again, it's I'm. Who is he the bad guy to? He was not the bad guy to those people.
So it's interesting.
And he did ultimately help that kid. He gave them money. He gave that family. Mm-hmm. And he said, this is for your family. He knew what they needed. And he knew in a way he could help that Sam and Bucky couldn't help them, which is why they were willing to help him back.
It's interesting to see how Zemo just kind of like... So, Zemo mentioned it kind of last episode where where he was just kind of getting on their ass because they weren't attending the Sokovia Memorial and all that stuff. I think it's that Zemo's from this area, right? Like, he knows this area, he knows these people, he knows how these people work.
He knows how they feel.
He's an insider. Exactly. He understands their plight. Like, he's been here before in his life. These are his people. Not directly his people, but not that far from what Sokovians were going through.
Yeah. Much more than these Americans literally jumping the pond, messing around in affairs that really aren't their problem.
And speaking of Americans, as they're trying to go to to find out where Carly is and kind of eventually meet up and talk and try to basically de-escalate the situation, here comes good old man with the plan, fucking John Walker, stomping down, starting barking orders. I think basically he really just comes in and tries to take control of the situation, and especially with Zemo and everything, and he creates this whole entire fucking weird, intense situation. Star Shadow?
What is it with him and wanting to, in charge of everything? Like, he is inserting himself into literally every single situation in the series, and it's just like, what makes you think you can just be Captain America just because they gave you the shield? Why?
I would say Steve was probably a lot more respectful when entering foreign territory.
The following scene is where we really got to see how severe his pride and ego were, because when what's the name of the group?
The Flag Smashers?
No, the Wakanda group.
Oh, right. Well, hold on. We're not. Okay. You're like 3 scenes ahead.
That's 3 scenes ahead?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was next. Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah, he creates this really tense situation with them. John here is just a very difficult person to deal with. He tries to immediately take control of the Zemo situation. Zemo is pretty much a very valuable asset for the group. I mean, at this point, with his leverage, he's pretty much made himself like they can't even hand him over to the Dora Milaje at this point because he knows the only information to go find Carly. Dad?
Yeah, that was, like I said, that was brilliant on his part. And of course, John just comes in and it's like, you're going to tell us what you know. You guys are going to hand him over. He just comes in like the bossy guy that he is. And to Star Show's point, like they give him the shield. That makes him Captain America, but that doesn't make him a leader, right? He's not a leader. He's a bossy bottom who is telling everyone what to do, and that's exactly what he gets out of that's exactly the way he comes across, and it only ratchets up throughout the episode. He just becomes more and more of an asshole.
And his partner literally gives away that like they have nothing, and we know he's desperate. They have no information of what to do, where to go, and they need the information. And that's what he's coming in complete desperation, trying to take control because they're dead in the water and they're much further along with Zemo than he is. And he's basically trying to regain control of a situation where he is constantly failing at every corner.
What's interesting about...
Oh, go ahead.
So what's interesting about this is that... So I like to view this as and this might get a little political and I apologize for this. Spicy topics.
Really? From
spicy
you?
Topics.
El caliente.
So I feel like when people talk about like make America great again, okay, they're thinking about like 1940s Steve Rogers kind of America, like where America was the good guy, America was there to help. Well, at a global level, America was the good guy and America was there to help and like help everybody. But that's not really who America is now in the modern days. Like John Walker's a really good fucking representation of what the United States has kind of turned into. Like we think we're world police. We think we go in and we go into other people's countries. Like we fucking push the line really hard, and like there are days where I'm sitting here looking at these operations going like through the news and I'm like, I think we're about to go to war with some, when all these like secret attacks and shit start happening in other countries. It's like that, like I can't help but to get reminded of that when I see John just walk in, start taking control of like a situation, not really like Kate, like even when he went into that, like was it in Munich, he said like, do you know who I am? He pretty much was trying to take control of that situation, and he's not world police, he's not the ultimate authority, yet he thinks he is.
And the point you brought up, I think another really important, because you're talking about the 1940s era, I think another thing to really remember there is the United States wanted nothing to do with World War II. We were isolationist. We did not get involved until Pearl Harbor. We chose to stay out of it, even after all of our allies were being invaded. Europe was calling for our help, and we ignored them, saying it was not our problem until we got bombed. And then we immediately took care of that in a very questionable way with the Japanese, and then we turned, and then we went to fight the war over in Europe. But up until that point, our mentality was not to get involved with that war, that it wasn't our problem. And then after that point, we picked up this giant world police thing, like everything was our problem. And then and even then, Steve, who stepped in at the time, wasn't even in the propaganda of either of those notions. He was speaking in that movie about fighting for the little man. He wasn't. He wanted to protect people. He wanted the shield was a symbol of Steve's desire to protect people, not to fight people. He didn't want to fight people. He wanted to protect people.
Which is interesting because actually that symbolism of the shield gets brought up later on in the episode. So let's move ahead. So we get to the funeral scene. Really nice visuals here. It's very solemn. You get to see a kinder version of Carly. And you get to understand a lot of the reasons why she's fighting and why this person meant so much to her. Where I was scared that, based on her last actions, that she was becoming megalomaniac. You kind of see them kind of like pump the brakes a little bit with that characteristic of hers, and you're getting a little bit more of like, okay, she does these things, but it's like she has to do it because she believes that her hands are forced.
Yeah.
And Sam comes in, and as Moo says, there was that whole conversation that they had
Before this, but when they come into this memorial, they're going in, and then we have dumb fuck Captain America come in behind them, yelling at them that he's not gonna let him go and talk. His partner is telling him, no, we probably really should let Sam talk. If it de-escalates, and we should trust him. And he's like, no, we need to fight them. They can't be talked to. Like, there's no way we can let them do this. And Sam manages to get him to give him 10 minutes. Who says he's going to give him 10 minutes to go and talk to Carly in the memorial. And Sam does it. Bucky's guarding the door while Dumbfuck is in there throwing a hissy fit. He also already, like, handcuffs Zemo and does all kinds of other shit. Again, trying to take control. So before we get to Carly, we have that entire little thing where, again, he's being a dumbass.
Yeah. Actually, this actually is a little bit out of order because I forgot that Zemo was tied up to in that church. So, and Zemo does manage to escape, but quick segment right before the funeral scene, we actually see the scene with Carly at the graveyard before they pay their respects to Don Madonna, and you find out where the serum has been this entire time, but also you find out that there's like, I think 10 vials that are left.
Yeah. But we also find out it's not just her. Her friend is even questioning, has she gone too far?
That question does come up a lot.
He's like,
when is enough? Is that question of this episode. And you see Carly struggle with it. You see John struggle with it. And then you see clearly what is the extremely wrong way of handling that, and what is the, less tame way of handling that, I guess.
But we know she didn't like cold-heartedly just blow up the building. They're literally all fucked over it that they did that, and they didn't expect to get there, and they're trying to justify it. But they're literally in a fucked up position that they didn't want to be in.
Yeah, and this is where the symbolism of the shield gets brought up, which is interesting because again, this is such a this series makes you ask questions and questions your own thoughts. Why don't you share your thoughts about this, the garden scene here, Dad?
I thought it was interesting that she was hiding the serum in the graveyard, and they come and they rescue it, and I thought she's gonna drop those fucking things at some point or another, and but it was interesting because Harley definitely says the old way of doing things is not the right way to do things. Like the shield is a symbol of oppression, I guess. I think that was her kind of her term, kind of the way she put it. It's a symbol of everything that's wrong with the way the world was, right? And it's not the way things should be. We should be one people, and that kind of spills over into the scene with the funeral of Memorial, which is that we should be one people. We should be working for the better of society, of humanity, and not these power hungry people that are basically running our lives, which is really interesting because I'm watching Westworld season 3 right now, and there's a lot of that going on in that series as well.
It's kind of interesting to see how Steve gets brought up in this scene as well. So Steve is kind of like, even though Steve is not present in the show, Chris Evans isn't in the show
that we know.
You're absolutely right. But he's very much present in this episode, in all episodes. Captain America is very much present in spirit in some way or some form. Like Steve gets brought up, and in this scene, basically, the guy was basically saying how he used to be a Captain America fan, and then he ends up turning to Carly and saying like, "What would you do if you were Captain America?" Right? And I honestly never thought about that. Like this entire episode, this entire series, I've been thinking, who's the right Captain America? It's not John, right? So then is it Bucky? Is it Sam? Right? But I never really considered Carly. So that was like an interesting, like forced perspective. And she said, if I had it, I'd break the shield because it doesn't stand for what it used to be. It's like Dad said, it's this symbol of oppression now. So that was interesting that she would have chose, like with that responsibility, she would have chosen to kind of end that legacy. Yep. And she even said legacy too, like that Captain America needs to, the image, the thought of Captain America needs to die.
Star Shadow?
I want to save what she said for later in the episode, but there really was a lot of pretty much what Captain America means to people now that they were talking about there. So yeah, I'm gonna bench what she was talking about with the shield later.
Yeah.
So I do want to, as we get into the next scene that we were talking about where Carly and Sam are talking, I do want to lead that everything that's going to happen from this point on, there is a major concept that I think that would probably be important to remember. Steve was not Captain America because he had the serum. Steve in himself and his personality was Captain America without the serum. And we see the new Captain America does not feel he is Captain America with the shield. That's not enough. He feels over and over as we go and progress through all these next lines and things that happen that he needs the serum is what makes him Captain America.
Yeah, it's interesting because, again, like I said, Steve is ever present in the show, but also the question about super soldiers and the serum itself. And actually taking the serum and the usage of the serum gets brought up a lot in this episode too, because even Carly was questioning it. Even she was questioning it. She had a moment of how would I describe it? She had a moment of clarity, I guess, where she was like, hey, is making more super soldiers really the right answer?
So this is now when we get into the thing where Sam comes in and talks to Carly. And he manages to somewhat reason with her. What I said earlier, she talks and he talks, and the first thing she tells him is you're either incredibly stupid or a genius because you're too optimistic about all this. The reality of the situation, that it can be solved so simply, because she feels so stuck, like she has no choice. And Sam wants her to stand down, and from his perspective, the answer seems easy to him, and it's something else. But everything that she sees and believes he stands for and with is what she says she actually wants to destroy. And she's like, those things are what's wrong. She's like, Sam, I know you're a good person, and I know everything about you, but the people you're backing are not good. And that's where their conversation goes. And he does manage to get to talk to her very directly until something happens that we'll get to once you guys add your opinions.
Dad?
Yeah, the scene there between Carly and Sam is actually it's the most Captain America way of doing things. Sam is trying to reason with her and trying to find the peaceful solution without more bloodshed. And of course, John is in the other room, chewing his fucking leg off, like he's got his leg trapped in a bear trap. He's just he just wants to go in there and beat the shit out of people, And Bucky's like, wait a second, where do you think you're going? But it is very good. I think when Sam says, I agree with your fight, but not with the way you're doing it. I agree with what you're saying, but not your methods. So Sam's kind of showing himself to be sympathetic to her her feelings and her I would say cause, because he understands being. I think this again kind of. I'm going to say this. Hopefully, I don't get in trouble for this, but him being black in America, and he gets been treated badly, and I think that's what he sees in her, is that she's been treated very badly by the world, and he understands that, So I think he sympathizes with her, but he understands that this, violence is not the right way to do it. So,
yep.
It was interesting because the skills that he has with his get through to Carly, and he does manage to get through a little bit because they were able to find that common ground and that they do sort of agree with each other in a way, but not a lot of things. I really having trouble figuring out what my thoughts about this scene are, so let's just keep going.
Okay. So Sam really does manage to kind of create this rapport with her, which actually is extremely important, and I feel like it's going to be important for the rest of the show.
Yep.
At this point, I actually am. I guess before this point, I was kind of hoping that Carly would get brought down. At this now, I'm kind of hoping there's like a light for Carly.
I do too. I'm gonna say later that I hope there was one for Zemo too, and I'll explain that why later.
So Zemo, right? So John comes in, fucks everything up. Carly runs because she thinks she's being betrayed and trapped, and there's this big kind of chase scene going on.
John doesn't even give her the 10 minutes give him the 10 minutes he promised. He couldn't even wait the 10 minutes he gave. And Bucky even tried to stop him. And even John's partner is like, what the fuck are you doing? And like, this whole episode can literally be labeled like, why the fuck was John's partner not given the shield instead of John if they're going to pick a military boy? Because he has more common sense through the whole fucking episode than he does.
Lamar becomes an extremely important character.
Oh yeah,
in this episode. And so like, there's this like crazy kind of chase scene. I want to say it's a little bit Scooby-Doo-esque because like they're running around and they're kind of getting in circles and they're like, I was almost waiting for like Carly to chase John. How in Scooby-Doo where like the protagonist is chasing the villain and then it's all of a sudden it's the villain chasing the protagonist. So I was kind of waiting for that to happen because it's like in this, I guess it's like a monastery or a church. It's like a huge maze.
Yep.
And while all this has happened, of course, Zemo gets out.
Yep. They all ran away and left Zemo there, and Zemo easily got out of those cuffs like it was nothing. He probably was out of them while he was standing there with them, and they had no fucking clue because the dumbass was literally too focused on going and ripping Carly's head off.
And then actually Zemo is the one that actually finds Carly. After Carly gives the slip to basically everybody, Zemo, once again, shows that he is the brightest person in the room.
Very much so.
And, with the same finesse he tried to handle the doctor, he tries to kill Carly.
He tries to shoot her down with a gun, but he stops. He stops short because as he's shooting her down, a bunch of vials fall to the ground next to where Carly was. At the table she was hiding behind, and he knows what those are. And he immediately stops shooting to start stomping on every one of them and destroys them without hesitation.
Well,
he
hold on. There was a moment where he picked up the vial and I literally held my breath.
That was where I was worried. I'm like, oh my God, is he going to switch and be like, never mind, I'll use this to end it. But he didn't.
Yeah.
That's where I was like, no, he's dead serious. No one gets this, including him. I thought he was going to keep it.
That was a very interesting and very important point for Zemo. Dad?
Yeah, that was a great scene. So I knew when she took those vials out that something was going to happen. Either someone was going to take them from her, or she was going to drop them, or they were all going to get broken, or something was going to happen because you just don't take that kind of shit out in this kind of a show. And Zemo's like bang, 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 and she gets shot. She does get hit, I think, in her abdomen.
Yep.
And the vials go all over the place. He sees them. I do think he had the thought for a second, I can do this. And then he said, you know what? I'm just going to become a Red Skull. Don't do it. And he he smashed all the vials.
We
and
think he
I
did. And then something happened.
Well,
but we'll let
yeah.
we'll
I
let you
mean,
finish.
yeah. And, so I can't remember what happened right after that.
Oh, I was going to let Star Shadow share his thoughts first here.
Honestly, I never thought he'd the serum because he, like, as someone who doesn't really read the comics and doesn't really know much about characters aside from what I read online, it's like he doesn't. Zemo is more of a character who would stick to his convictions rather than just completely turn on a dime like that.
He's very strong.
So, yeah.
So while he's in the middle of stomping them out, before he's able to even finish, Dumbfuck comes in, John. And
I have to say, I'm sorry, but
Oh, that's
Zemo
right.
getting clonked in the head was super fucking funny. He just like, bing, and then
Yeah.
he was out.
he's down on the floor, knocked out. And then we have a very similar image to what we just had with John, well, with Zemo, of John looking over and seeing next to one of the bottle, one vial remaining. And he picks that up and he slips it in his pocket.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And then scene.
Which, I mean, when I saw there was only one left. So in the comics, John does get the super serum, soldier serum, but so does Battlestar. So, I won't say anything more than that, but I was just surprised that there was only one left. Because, clearly John's going to take that, so.
There's the next scene to me is really important, and it's what my prediction is going to be based on.
So now we know that John has the vial, and they kind of lose Carly. So they basically are back on a cold trail. And as they're kind of going back to their home base, which is really lovely, by the way, here comes the motherfucking John Walker and starts, making demands. But before he can even start throwing his damn shield.
No, right before that, please.
Okay.
When Zemo's on the couch with the thing on his face,
yes,
and he's talking to Sam. This is where my prediction comes from. This is what we said earlier, where Zemo asks Sam the same question that was just presented to both him and presented to John. He's like, if you were given the opportunity to take the serum, would you take it? And Sam, without hesitation, said no. And Zemo's like, wow, you didn't even hesitate. And Zemo's in his head making processes, and I think there's a part of me in a prediction. We already see that Zemo has already deemed that Steve was an exception. Zemo also knows that Sam was the one that was supposed to have the shield. He's literally watching in. And I think Zemo has been making judgments on his own. And Zemo has these strong convictions about the serum. And he's literally watching and studying Sam over and over and over again about his decisions and what he's choosing to do. And my prediction for this is going to come, I think Zemo, in a way, is going to give Sam the okay and tell him that you're the one that should have the shield. That you deserve this. And Zemo is going to be the one that it's like, you're Steve's replacement. That you're the one meant to have this.
I don't know how I feel about this, especially when the show kind of established that this is very much like a very strong black excellence kind of in this show. So I feel like Zemo, like it I feel like Zemo giving him the okay, basically telling him he is the good guy, is similar in the sense of like Erskine and Steve back when they were talking, and he said, "Don't be the perfect soldier, just be a good guy." Right?
I'm just saying that he knows because Sam's issue is he's doubting himself. He doesn't think he's good in the same way that Steve was. He didn't think he deserved to carry that mantle. It didn't feel right. But I think it's going to be a combination of the people that knew Steve and knew what the world dealt with like the Red Skull and everything else in Super Serum, to convince him and tell him, no, you actually are the one meant to have this. We've seen what the world has done with these things, and you deserve this.
And so, as I was mentioning before, John comes in, starts barking orders like usual, and before he can take Zemo in, the 8 hours are up, and here come the Dora Milaje.
The best part of this entire episode.
So, Dad, you want to walk us through this scene?
Yeah. So, I kind of have a little bit of agreement with Cruz on this one. That I think he understands that Steve was an anomaly, and Zemo knows Steve was an anomaly, and I think he may see that in Sam. But I don't think that Zemo giving him the okay, is going to be the final word, right?
I don't think it's the final word.
But I get your point. Yeah, but I think he's going to say you're the new Steve Rogers, basically, kind of a thing. So,
I personally want it to be Isaiah.
Well, it could be. I'm very surprised that they haven't brought him back. I mean, they've been globetrotting this whole time, so I don't know. But I'm kind of hoping that he will make another appearance, and that he'll get to know him, and that he will actually give him the also be okay. But the Dora Milaje come in, and they just fucking beat the shit out of everyone. I love when John says, "If we just put the pointy sticks down," I'm like, "Those are vibranium spears."
Oh my God.
Oh yeah, you just put down your pointy sticks. Those are vibranium spears that can punch you through probably anything, except for your shield, because it's also vibranium. They whip his ass, and it was amazing. And at the end, he goes, "They're not even super soldiers." He's got his ass handed to him by these. I don't know if it sounds completely like, but women who were just ass kickers. It was awesome.
Very strong women.
Yeah, and they just kicked his ass, and he was like, they weren't even super soldiers. So he now has a vial in his hand, and he knows that he's going to, I think he may still be on the fence about whether to do it or not, or turn it over. But I think that was enough to make him realize
that was the tipping point.
Yeah, I mean, to jump forward just a tad bit, there was another scene with him and Lamar where they're kind of still talking about it, and he seems kind of like he's not totally sure. And all I can think of is, God, that he looks like Kurt Russell, and I love his little blonde stubble and everything, and that's Kurt Russell's son. Yeah, he was when he was it that first scene in the very first episode where he looked like that looked terrible, but he actually looked kind of hot in that scene on the coffee table.
So, Star Shadow, your opinions on the Dora Milaje fight?
You do not mess with those women. Yeah. You don't mess with those women whatsoever.
They didn't just fuck up John.
If you see them just...
Oh, yeah.
So there's a little bit of there's a two parts to this fight. There's definitely
I forgot when they turned off Bucky's arm.
Yeah.
And Sam's like, "Did you know they could do that?" And he's like, "No, I didn't."
Yeah, that was scary.
And he's dumbfounded. He didn't think that was going to happen. He thought he was separate, getting ready to stop the fight. Mm-mm.
Yeah.
No, they decided when that fight ended. They decided.
Yeah. And they were really there only for Zemo. I mean, when they found out he was gone, they left. That was pretty much the end of it. So, but I think that was probably the worst CGI moment. With that was when he reattached his arm. I was going like that looked kind of cheesy, but it wasn't nearly as good as some of the other special effects they've done.
Any more opinions, Star Shadow?
Sorry.
No? Okay.
Nope.
So as Dad mentioned before, right after, he gets the shit beating out of him. And there's even a sense, like, I feel like, again, the shield, there's so much symbolism here. The shield, the serum, Steve itself, the name Captain America. I believe it was Ao who, like, stomped the shield and basically grabbed the shield in her arm, very Captain America-esque. And even, like, and then when, like David said, or like Cruz said, like, they decided when the fight was over. So, she hands the shield back to John. Like, that's got to be like, after getting your ass kicked, then, having your weapon given to you by your quote-unquote enemy is very emasculating.
And so this is what I brought up earlier, and why I wanted to make sure we remember that Steve was not Captain America because of the serum or the shield.
Right.
So he, in this situation, just got his ass kicked to him. All the way up to this point, he's been telling everybody he's Captain America because he had the shield. But now, even with the shield, his image of Captain America would never have gotten beat here. Because his image of Captain America is different than all the other people who knew them. And he just got his ass handed to him. And he's like, wait, I'm Captain America.
And they're not super soldiers.
And they're not super soldiers. And they're like, clearly then, the next logical leap is, if I'm Captain America, I need to be a super soldier. That's what will make me Captain America then. Because the shield isn't enough. I need that then. So that doesn't happen to me again. And that shield, and more importantly, himself and his pride, doesn't take a fall or get hurt again because of that image he has.
Can I just say that, because we're transitioning to the next scene, I fucking love Zemo. I love his actor. I want him to be in every fucking Marvel movie, because as the entire fight is going on, he just nonchalantly just kind of like has his tea, kind of sidesteps like spears going around him and stuff, and just kind of like, okay, well, you know what? I'm just gonna leave you guys to do this, and then he just GTFOs. Bye. He's just gone.
I also love the fact that he locked the bathroom doors.
Yeah.
Like, if that's going to stop anyone,
yeah.
He just, the doors go.
At the moment, I think Zemo's done for the most part. I think we have that part of the story. They're going to find him, and it's going to be a small part of the next episode. But Zemo believes all the serums are gone. He thinks he smashed them all. That was his goal. And now, they're fighting, but they're after him, and so he's pretty much done in that part of the story. Yeah,
I don't think we're going to see Zemo until probably the wrap-up of the show. Yeah.
So everything moving forward now is going to be what happens next that we get to talk about as the shit show and just continues from here.
But before said shit show, as Dad mentioned, there is a conversation between Lamar and John. And they're basically talking about essentially, what it's almost, it kind of mirrors the conversation that they had, that the Carly and her friend had, where they're just kind of like, how much easier life would have been had we had the super soldier serum. Like, I feel John carries a lot of weight and guilt on his shoulders. And his solution is to be the perfect soldier, which is exactly what Erskine didn't want Steve to be. So I know, Dad, you mentioned that that it kind of seemed like he was still kind of dealing with, like, do I or don't I? But I'm pretty sure that he's already taken it by this point.
His pride is telling him that he has the right to it. He's Captain America. That is something that is now in his name that belongs to him.
See, I think this whole entire conversation is for John, is that he already took it and he's looking for Lamar to basically validate his actions.
Yep. That's what I think too.
That could be. That could very well be. Either way, whether he'd already taken it, and he was just trying to get Lamar to kind of like, to say, you it's fine, without him actually saying it's fine, or whether or not he was actually on the fence and he was going to hit it up that night, like do a little booty bump. I don't know.
I was still here. Like, Lamar's the good guy. Like, Lamar is the good one of the two of them. Like,
yeah, he's the rational one. And
night and day.
Yeah, I mean, like back in Munich, he was like, "Look, these people are being supported. They're being helped by the Flag Smashers. They're not gonna do anything." He helps say, "Well, if there's a way of de-escalating this with Carly, and there's no more bloodshed, we should take that." He has actually been a very upstanding character for
the whole series so far.
Yeah. So.
I would say he would be John's conscience.
Yep, and to say.
Which is very important to this episode.
It's symbolic of what's about to happen.
So, before we get there, sorry, I know you really want to get there, but before we get there,
we get to deal with Carly and what she does next.
Carly, right? So exactly. So Carly figures out that her people really want to kind of just get rid of Sam, get rid of everybody.
Yuki, thanks for the raid. Hello, everyone.
So Carly really wants to get rid of everybody. No, I'm sorry. Carly's coworkers or friends or whatnot, they kind of want to get rid of everybody. Kill Captain America. Kill Bucky and Sam and all those people. But this is where like Carly comes out with like her rational, like that's bond that Sam had with her. Like really shows its work here, and she doesn't want it. Sam at some point kind of, I guess, de-escalated her to a point where she is not like drop rockets on them and kill them all. Like she's like, hey, listen, you're absolutely right. We need to take care of John Walker. We need to crush Captain America. I'm 100% with you on that, but I think we can get Sam to help us. I think Sam is a good guy here, and even in the same scene, you notice that there's a lot of pressure on her as a leader because the power broker is ready to fucking kill her, which is completely different from how they made the power broker sound last episode, because she was pretty sure that the power broker was going to come crawling to her, and that ain't it, buddy. The power broker's here to collect.
He wants the remaining serums. And she's like, fuck, well, I'll deal with that when I get to that. But that's not what's in front of me right now. I have other issues.
Right.
And then we get to what she's going to do.
You can scrape it off the floor.
Yeah. And hey, everyone, thanks for the follows. We just got like 2 or 3 new follows. Thank you guys so much. What happens next is Carly does something I hope she wouldn't do, but she did. And it crossed the line. She calls Sam's sister. She calls Sam's sister to give her coordinates and hollowly threaten her that if she didn't get Sam these coordinates, that she was going to take her out to the docks with her children and basically off her.
The cinematography in this scene is absolutely fucking amazing. The lighting, the angle, like the fact that that Sam's sister is covered in darkness.
Yep.
There's like, this series is full of symbolism.
Well, the POC view here too, that his sister says, because she's like, I get it. I agree with you. The things you're fighting. She's like, first off, Sam's not a bad person, and the people you're fighting, they don't care about me either. They've never cared about us. Yeah. She's even there saying, those aren't my people. They're not Sam's people. He's not a bad person, and he didn't do that to you, and he believes in you and knows you're a good person. But because she needs Sam there, she still continues with the threat, and she's kind of shocked that she did that.
Dad?
Yeah, that's Carly went way over the line on that one, and basically, well, didn't basically, she threatened her, and she starts out the whole conversation with, "I'm not sure if I need to kill your brother or not."
Yeah.
So, just trying to figure this out, like, is he a good guy? Is he a bad guy? And Sarah knows that Sam is a very upstanding person. He is not a tool of the United States government like John is, and that he's not following John. John is literally tagging along on this adventure in almost every situation. Like, so I thought it was very good. And then the next scene with Sam and Sam, telling you, get out of Dodge, let's be safe. But now he knows where to meet Carly. So,
Star Shadow.
It really was stepping over the line, but like, how did Carly know like stuff about the pier and what her kids' names were? Like, did she have someone watching Sarah this whole time? Like, how the hell did she get to this point?
I'm assuming
She
that
also knows something.
there's some information sharing between Sam and her during the church scene. That's the only way I can imagine.
No, I have been very much under the understanding that Sam knows Carly in the past.
No. Absolutely not.
No,
That's
they haven't met until now.
I think so.
But
there's also Carly knows something about Sam, and that there's something when she's talking to him at the church. She knows something about him that for some reason, or maybe it's the scene afterwards when they're actually talking on the balcony, but she says a couple things about him that are personal. I think that are, she either found out or she has gotten some information on him and them. So
I wouldn't be surprised if she's got like a super hacker team, because I mean, like,
or power broker information.
Because like even when she was getting chased down by the police, like they ended up scrubbing all of her files off of those things. So I mean, in the other direction, it could probably work that way to get information, even a specific phone number. Which was weird.
The next part, we see Sam confronting Carly. He's finally in his Falcon outfit. Bucky's there. They're storming in, and he's basically like, "Why the fuck did you do that?" And she's very much immediately backing off. "You knew I never would do that. I just needed to get you here." And again, it's Carly not questioning the means to get to her ends.
Yep.
That she keeps doing over and over. She's willing to cross boundaries to get things that she wouldn't have done before. And I think that the serum changes people, and that's where Carly got pushed. Where she originally was fighting for that like being that freedom fighter type person, she's now in the extremes and doing those means that she never would have originally thought to do, including threatening to kill someone's family. And yeah, Sam's not happy. He comes in not happy. Her original plan already is not going off the back of getting Sam to help her. Like, he's coming suited up this time.
Pause. Yeah. So we're about to transition into a really, really heavy scene that I know we're about to talk for like another half hour. But what we haven't talked about at this point is there's a small scene somewhere in this episode, I can't tell you the exact timeline, where Sam basically contacts Sharon Carter for some additional help. That scene, that visual scene is extremely important because she's walking through some extremely dangerous parts of Madripoor and not a single person is touching her.
Yep.
Which makes me believe she's working for the power broker.
And pretty high up with the power broker.
I guess someone was right.
That's on the watch, and she's like targeting, and they found the location, and they're running in. And it was at Lamar they were targeting?
No, they were following John.
They were targeting John.
Yeah, but so at that point, right? So Sam gets that information from Sharon, but I just kind of want to talk about really quick with Sharon and the power broker before we get into the final intense scene. So, Dad, you're saying she's the power broker.
She actually.
I think
you're right.
I think there's a very good chance she is the power broker. The fact that it's just my personal feeling. Like, she came in and like she led them to Nagel. He got killed under her fucking taking them there. Like, that power broker should have murdered her. You know, like he would have been like, you just killed my fucking best asset. You know, and it's your fault. You were the fucking one that led them there. And she's just like casually walking through this, high security zone, through these barricades and stuff. She's like, can I have like access to a couple satellites, maybe?
But because she's got
I think
information now, she got the information
I
from
think-
Sam then about the vials in the serum, which would explain why the power broker all of a sudden messaged collecting saying, where's it at? Because if she is the power broker, she already knows they don't have it.
I think
And
she's.
lighting
I
the
think
fire
she. I
from a
think.
different side.
Yeah, I think there's a very good chance she may be the power broker.
I think you're right.
I'm not-
Actually,
don't
I'm
quote me
with
on-
Dad on this. I think that might be what be happening.
Star Shadow.
Yeah, I was still thinking that she was working with the power broker, but that is an interesting angle because we still to this point have not seen the power broker. We have no idea who they are.
At this
At
point,
all.
we're
Like,
4 episodes in. That reveal is going to be significant.
And it would make sense that it's going to be a better thing if we find out, like, oh, you guys, you've heard of me already. I'm the power broker, basically, like next episode. And it's going to be like, oh my God, she has been watching. She's been there at like most steps.
I don't know.
I think there's a very good possibility they'll catch Carly, they'll take her in, to and the power of Sharon will show up, and they'll be like, "Oh, what are you doing here?" And she's like, "Carly, you know what I'm here for." And she's like, "I don't have your vials." I think that's how it's going to go down.
Oh shit.
Yep.
She's there, and they're going to be like, "Oh shit, you're the power broker." She's like, "Bitch, please! I was running Shield before you need." Nick Fury didn't know what the fuck was going on. I was running that place.
That makes so.
And I was boning Steve 5 times a week.
As
I'm a dad now.
I'm like, I don't know. I'm definitely team. She's working for Power Broker.
Oh, she's definitely working for him, but I think she is him.
I definitely think. Hey, Shadowfang, thanks for the host.
I mean, I know that Zemo said he and every kingdom needs a king and everything, but I think that may just be a red herring.
But like she
throw
talked
you
about
off.
in her previous thing about basically having to climb to the top in order to survive and like make it through there. It makes so much more sense to her character if she literally climbed to the top of hell and she became the queen of it and she's ruling it. She doesn't need anyone to help her get out. She fucking runs the place. She's not in trouble. She gets it and she knows everything going on. It makes so much more sense for her from that perspective.
Okay, but then why? But then why the cell phone scene and notifying everybody in Madripoor to kill Sam and?
Because then she gets to come in to be the savior for them. So she seems
even
like
kill
she's
her own henchman.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
they're just cannon fodder.
I don't know. I think she's working for them or is a double agent. But I don't.
We'll see.
Whoever the power broker is going to possibly be a big presence in Phase 4 going forward. This is a significant reveal. This is going to be a significant reveal.
If they reveal him at all.
Wait. What if the power broker is Mephisto?
Okay, no, all right. We haven't got into crazy theories yet.
Okay.
So,
are you guys ready to talk about the next part, the very, very deep, heavy next part, because I think probably the best way to start the next part is talking about ticking John Walker, who's literally like ticking and moving as he walks through things and is like, he's challenging people, getting to a fight, running through this building. You know something's off. You know he's had the serum. You know that he is different right now. He is not used to what's going on, and he is off his rocker at the moment on a fucking craze. He's looking for Lamar, who we keep seeing scenes of Lamar tied up with, I'm assuming, what is gas leaking in front of him.
Right.
And he's trying to escape. And he's trying to find where Lamar went, or where Lamar's at, and he's running through these buildings and he's getting into fights, going up and down stairs, and we have Bucky and we have Sam also getting in the fights after Carly, and they're chasing through, and now all three of them are running in through the buildings, being attacked by different people who are a member of Carly's group, but in separate, until finally they all get together in one room.
Yeah, it is a really weird and very intense three-way fight here, because part of it is like Sam protecting Carly to a degree, and part of it is like Bucky like basically telling John, like, slow the fuck down, like, you are way out of your league here. But at the same time, they can't let Carly go either. So it's this weird, because it's like part of like it's like in one swing, like Sam is blocking a bad guy from coming to like attack John, and then in the very same next breath, he's just pushing him out of the way so he gives Carly enough space. It's this really weird dance.
And oh my god, so many knife fights. Everybody has a knife. And even John
brought it up.
John's like, what the fuck? Why does everybody have a knife? And we see John also fighting differently now. He is lobbing that shield like a motherfucking weapon, left and right, into walls, breaking stone, constantly crushing shit, kicking things in. You know, clearly he has the serum as he's throwing this thing with god-awful strength. And like I said, like every time after he throws it, you like kind of see him ticking and stuff with his body. He looks like he's fucking juiced up on something. Like...
Super soldier.
Yeah, but it's like...
He did a booty bump. He did a big blue booty bump the night before. He has not slept for 24 hours. He is high as a kite.
We're very, very clearly seeing the things that got amplified about John.
Which is the worst things. So Star Shadow, you want to lead us into the big turning point for John here?
No, you can go ahead.
So, in a exchange of fists, of like I was saying before, there is this intricate dance that's going on between all the parties involved. Lamar dies.
First off, you guys got to understand, Lamar broke free. He was in another room, one that they never even got to. And he gets up, he cuts himself out, escape, and he's ended up running, and he's looking for them. Carly and their group has all of them fighting in a room. And then in the midst of that, Carly's running at John with a knife, getting ready to stab John, who is basically like wide open to be attacked. And Lamar comes out of nowhere and jumps on Carly, which gets grabbed and flung across the room at a pillar. Then that's when Lamar
dies. And it is an extremely... It is a very oh shit moment. Even Carly and her group knows that what they've done is piss off a very angry John Walker.
You see John snapped.
It's like in this moment, you know, John is attending to Lamar, right? As one would expect. But Carly takes this like Carly could honestly take this opportunity to kill John, but she knows that she just stepped in shit.
Yep. Their goal was not to harm Lamar or any of the others. Their goal was to take down John. And at that moment, and John's like checking Lamar and seeing that he's dead, they're all backing away and they're leaving. They're turning tail. They're running out the building, every one of them. And John's first reaction is literally to turn to the window and bust through the fucking wall and land on a car outside the building.
Yeah, it was a really, really, really intense scene. There is just a lot going on here. Again, I just want to go back to the like I know you're focusing on John and everything, but there's a lot of tension between Sam here too and Bucky, because again, they're caught in the middle of this. They're just like, do we defend Carly? Do we not defend Carly? We have to capture Carly, we have to subdue Carly, but we can't kill her, and we can't have him kill her, and we can't have him capture her because we don't know what's going to happen.
Yep. And they're trying to play the good guys, and even Sam noticed that John has had taken the serum. he's watching him fight, and he like basically like, and he's basically like, yeah, get over it, and like keeps fighting and like completely brushes it off.
Yeah, because there's definitely that scene. There's one of the scenes where someone takes a pipe and tries to hit him with it. One of the Flag Smashers tries to take a pipe and hit him with it, and he basically takes it and just bends it
Yep.
around the guy. I think around the guy's arm or something like that. And he's just like it was just like a wooden Q-tip and breaking in your ear. You know, like it was just. By the way, that's very specific in this joke. So, but just crazy strength, you know, and he is just high as a kite on this stuff right now.
He is
But
not hiding it.
yeah, he's not hiding it. John, Lamar dying, his conscience died, right?
Yep.
Like we were saying earlier, and he's not going to stop. And what happens after he gets outside? I don't know if you want to go that far.
Yeah,
Right now.
well, I mean, that's literally the next part.
So yeah.
Yeah.
So
And
basically-
he goes outside and he tracks down I think he nails one of Carly's guys in the back of the head with the shield. The guy falls down. They start fighting. The guy falls over, and John just executes the guy with the shield, just taking it over his head and just slamming in this public square with all these people surrounding it, cell phones out. Just everyone knows what the Captain America just did, and there is the most gruesome moment where he stands up and he's kind of got this pose. He's got the shield in his hand, and the bottom of the shield is just covered in blood.
And it's important to note that the person that died wasn't just any of the lackeys. It was Carly's basically right-hand man that was talking to her about, is this the right way, earlier in the graveyard, that was talking with her. And he's like, hey, he was the one that's like, we've gone too far. This isn't really what we should have been doing. This isn't what we wanted. And he was the good guy in the sense that trying to be her conscience.
And Carly was part of that crowd that witnessed the execution.
Yes.
And we see her standing shocked. Yeah. And now both of those people's consciences just got killed in that scene. He executed publicly that one. The image of Captain America has just publicly been destroyed. She didn't mean to kill or end Captain America that way, but they just fucking did that way. And that's an entirely brand new monster.
She should have taken that out of Zemo's book, which is the best way to destroy is to do it from within. You just kill Captain America, they're just going to put another one in place, right? John did what Zemo did to the Avengers by breaking them from the inside out, and Carly unfortunately didn't know that lesson. So,
Star Shadow.
This scene really got my mind going about, like, in the last episode we had talking about how he wanted to destroy the shield, and in this one we had Carly destroying it for kind of different reasons, but also the same. And then we get to this, and John Walker metaphorically destroys the shield.
Pretty much.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, I talked about earlier, it's like this shield was chosen by Steve to protect. That was what Steve wanted to do. That was we literally just got like 15 minutes of a fight scene where John used that shield for anything but. He literally used that thing as a weapon to kill over and over and over and over again.
Honestly, I feel like when I was watching this, like everybody in the room collectively just held their breath as this was happening.
And I'm like, is there an end scene credit? Like, what the fuck? Are we literally I'm like, oh my God. Again,
if Marvel has been doing anything good since, I would say, in the phase 3 going on forward, and especially with these TV shows, are these camera angles, these symbolisms,
symbology.
Literally, the camera angle is from the floor looking up as if you were the dead body, right? And you're looking up and you see a towering Captain America with a bloody shield, and it almost looks like he is like essentially like from like
He's
a
not bothered
very
by it.
dominant god position.
So this when I talked about the boys, this was literally the Homelander moment. If you guys have not watched The Boys on Amazon, that literally goes over like Justice League, American Justice League, basically doing this type shit. There's a point where basically Homelander kills someone in broad daylight in front of a bunch of people and does this, and he's seen as a fucking murderer. And that's what he is, and that's what John just did. And this also, I will say, has created the fucking hiccup for Sam.
Mm-hmm.
Because the decision, whatever was going to happen next, picking up that shield just got a lot harder because it literally means nothing right now. Everything Steve stood for just was destroyed in that shield and that symbol.
This is a very difficult scene to watch. This whole entire episode was difficult, but this particular scene itself was really difficult because, again, I'm sorry for sounding like a broken record, but again, Steve's presence is felt so much throughout this entire series up until this moment. Like this moment really, like this is the moment where Steve
is
died.
Dead. That's what it felt like. Steve died there.
Star Shadow, you seem like you have an opinion.
I was just gonna say, is there any confirmation that Steve has died? Because he's kind of old now.
Yeah, we don't
like actually.
Somebody actually did the math on this. Steve's got to be like, because he was like what 19 or 20 by the time of Captain America the movie came out. So Steve's got to be like 115 years old at this point.
He's done.
But as of Endgame. So and I think this is like a year afterwards, I think ish. So it was
only a few months, I thought.
7 or 8 months, right? So I mean, Steve could be alive, but I'm like, see, honestly, okay, I guess we can go into the next section of
he's
like
not dead
prediction.
He's not dead like Black Widow.
True.
Rude.
We're gonna get into. I guess this is a safe place to go into predictions, right? I think prediction for next episode. I think it's gonna open up with live news coverage of this, and old man Steve is watching basically John Walker killing somebody with this shield. I very much think that's going to happen. That's my prediction.
That could be a very interesting thing. I don't know if they were actually going to pull him in, though. What do you guys think?
Well, I did say earlier that I wanted to see Old Man Steve show up in this series at some point, so that might just be what happens.
It could.
So that's honestly my this show has really kind of kept me on my toes on where it's going to go. I do have to honestly say we're probably not going to see Zemo into the end. Yeah. I think that's safe to say. But I do have to say that my only prediction for next episode is it's going to open this is going to have to get back to Steve at some point. Like, I don't know if this is going to be the thing that actually, gives Steve a heart attack and he dies. But I just feel like somehow Steve is going to learn about this somehow.
If he's alive,
right? That's my opinion. Star Shadow, what's your prediction for next week?
Come on. I think the U.S. government is going to try and backtrack and say, "Oh no, this guy he killed part of the Flag Smashers. They're all terrorists. Like, no one should feel sorry for these people." Like that's literally what's going to happen.
Yeah, that's going to be
they're just going to try
thing to sell.
We've literally went through last.
They're just going to try
of public executions going live on Facebook of people in authority. It doesn't get covered up by the public that easily.
That is true.
Yeah.
It leads to mass protest.
This is also
and people speaking out.
We can still try.
In fact, if they find out that this was for that group. The Flag Smashers probably just got the biggest martyr for their group that they needed, and they probably are going to have a lot of people coming to them.
So, back to Star Shadow and his prediction.
Other is that they're probably going to try and take the shield away from John and try and be like, oh, hey, yeah, huge mistakes, Ham, here you go.
Dad, what's prediction for next week?
You mean America asking the black man to clean up the white man's mess?
No, it's unrealistic. Just go with it.
I'm not saying it's unrealistic. I'm like, it literally happens too much.
I do think I am going to stand by my prediction that Sharon is the power broker.
So you're saying we're going to get a power broker reveal next episode?
I don't know if that's going to happen in this next episode or the last episode. I would kind of think that.
If I were to,
I don't know. I'm not sure if they're going to reveal who it is until the very end, or if they reveal it at all. So again, there's a little bit of fun in mystery. Sometimes you don't know who it's going to be, or they may save that character for a later incarnation. And actually, in that case, Sharon wouldn't actually be the perfect person for that. But there was always someone pulling the strings on the doctor who was giving people super soldier serum. In the original comics, it was Curtis Jackson. But it could be Sharon. I like that idea actually because it kind of ties her in, and actually kind of
It's a good idea.
really well. But yeah, it's a really good idea. But at the same time, I definitely think that this is. I agree with Hachi that there's going to be they're going to start with the news coverage of this Captain America killing a person in broad daylight kind of thing, and it's just going to tarnish. And there's definitely going to be repercussions for John in that case. So
I'm with you there. I think the storyline and timeline next, that the power broker seems like the next thing. I think the start is going to be literally dealing with that scene, and the consequences, I have a feeling, is going to be the martyr situation. The Flag Smashers are going to get a giant rally around them. They're going to be seen as something. Their cause is going to be rallied behind. And then from there, in that position, they're going to probably be able to handle themselves a little bit better with the power broker, even though they don't have serums, because now they have public favor, which has power, and it is a currency.
We're definitely at the point where we're going to get to the climax of this series. So it's because pretty much how storytelling works usually, and in the beginning of the third act, and I think that's pretty much where we're at now. We're going to start the third act. We're about to get into the climax, and then the resolution will probably start happening in the the first half of the second episode of the last episode, and then there's always a lot of cleanup, right? Yep. I just want to say climax a couple more times, but but I feel like we're definitely reaching, the stakes are high. A lot of they can't introduce, other than revealing the power broker, I don't think they can bring new characters in at this point. There's got to be wrap up. We're done with Zemo. I don't think we're gonna see him anymore.
I know this is something that is even slightly going to be addressed in this, but something that keeps going to my head. And it's something we didn't get to see until Avengers Endgame. The very last facet that Captain America is constantly addressed with in the Avengers movie was Steve's ability to lift Mjolnir. All the way in Endgame, where it was Steve's full ability to wield and fight with Mjolnir. And Mjolnir's symbol of Steve's ideals and his purity and what he was, literally being that, so much so that it shocked Thor. We don't exactly have that for Sam. And when we're talking about the different when we're talking about the different accessories that has Steve and the things around Steve and what made Steve what he was, those ideals, those things that made it so Mjolnir worked for Steve is what made him Captain America. It wasn't the shield. It wasn't the serum. It's not Mjolnir itself. None of those powers are things that Steve ever gets. It was all around that general characteristics that was Captain America.
This is a weird off rail
Why?
segue, but like I see what you're saying, but like I'm not sure if we can get like another Mjolnir moment for Sam.
And I don't think they're going to. I'm over here, but I just think it's important to address, because we've spent this entire episode of talking about that. What was Steve? What he believed in? Who he was? How he's an exception? And the Avengers did do a big deal of doing that with Steve's character. So much so that when Thor is legit like, how do I know that I can even trust this guy? And not just, well, there's only one other person besides Thor that fucking can pick up Mjolnir, and it's Vision that we just fucking saw. And so both Vision and Steve, it's those types of qualities that are literally seen over and over again that are considered to be so unique. I very much do not believe we're going to have Mjolnir in this at all. I do not. But it is something when it comes to the character of Steve and the imagery and the tools Marvel has used to define Steve's personality is making me think further on where they're going to go with Sam.
Last comments, Dad.
I gotta pee.
Okay.
Oh my god.
Star Shadow, last comments.
Kind of building on what was said before with the whole last act thing. I kept going back to what happened with WandaVision's last act, and we had like this big villain-esque reveal with Agatha Harkness, but like now we're going into the final 2 episodes, and we don't really have much of that aside from possibly John Walker with everything he's doing.
This final image, John Walker is the enemy. That's literally where I'm at.
Moody. Sorry.
Also, we still don't have. We still don't have like the whole who the power broker is or anything, and there's the lack of any end credit scene at all.
That's true, yeah.
These episodes is really just kind of building suspense.
Moo, last words?
Do they talk about the Flag Smashers at all in Homecoming? It's 2 months after this.
No.
So maybe they don't
brought him
put
up.
up enough movement, or it gets smashed, or something happens that stops it.
I think it would be safe to say that, yeah.
They're literally in Europe.
Is that your... okay, but are these your last comments?
They're my last comments. Yeah, I think the reason I brought up Mjolnir, the reason I brought up the serum, the reason I brought up S.H.I.E.L.D. is those are all accessories. Falcon is different. Falcon and himself and everything that he has around him, even his suit is an accessory. But to me, Sam is Captain America. Sam is Captain America without a serum, without the shield, without his wings, without anything that defines him. Captain America is not what you put on or equip them. Captain America is the ideals of a person. And that is very clearly at this point Sam, in my opinion. It has been proven over and over again by every character that has come in contact with him, has interacted with him, all the way down to Zemo, who all know that Sam is another one of these exceptional people. And that is what Steve saw when he chose Sam. He knew Sam was that person. And that would be my response.
Yeah, you could definitely see it with how Zemo interacts with Sam. Like, he does respect him to a degree.
Much different than Bucky, who he constantly keeps fucking with. Zemo respects Sam.
Yeah, really.
Sam's a good person.
Yeah.
My final comments is that I didn't think I was going to love this show more than I love WandaVision, and I'm not really sure if I do love it more than WandaVision, but I'm excited for Marvel TV based on these two.
It is so good.
These 2 examples that they have. I am on board for Loki and Hawkeye and all these other shows that are coming out.
I think they're better than the movies.
Getting his own series?
What?
Hawkeye getting his own series? Like,
yeah.
Yep.
And
He's training
First time here.
Bishop.
And the cool part is he's deaf in the new one. Well, and then his series, because Hawkeye's deaf in the actual like comics, and he becomes deaf in several different ways. But they're saying everything after the Ultron and the End Game, he ends up deaf after that. This is what causes him to go deaf. So now he's actually a hearing impaired hero who is handicapped with a disability hero. So I'm excited for them to do that. And he uses that with his super aim vision and his skills, and they end up adding that and making it a superpower instead of a weakness. But what I was going to say is I very much think that Marvel series are better than the movies in the sense that they have more time to go and reach more points and flesh out and color more things. And I feel like WandaVision and this is very much proving that. And I'm excited too for the new ones.
Thanks everybody for coming to. Thanks everybody for coming to watch our review of the episode 4. Thank you, Star Shadow. Thank you, Dad, for your time. Thank you, Moo, as well. This episode was great, and if you haven't had to watch it, sorry you got spoiled.
Super spoiled.
But definitely go and watch the show. I think if you're joining us for the last 2 episodes, now is if you haven't got on the train before, now is the time. Anyways, thank you guys. We'll see you next week. So you guys have a wonderful day.
Bye.